Welcome to Unit 4, and here is Eddie Hill's airplane. Unique and different. Looks a lot like a cup with the bottom cut out. I call it the one-third, one-third, one-third plane. And if you remember anything about your fractions, 3/3 make a whole. Hey, listen, if you'd like to know how to make this plane, if you'd like to change your plane, since change is what we're talking about in Unit 4, email me. I'll send you the instructions. It's a great plane. Now let's move on to Unit 4. In Unit 4, we're going to talk about change, and we're going to talk about training, and we're going to talk about the importance of each. We may have to spill training over into the next video, but I'll try my best to get it all into this lesson. Change. To understand change, you must understand that in business and industry, change is always immediate and change is always uncomfortable. It's just the way it is. If you change something, if you say to someone, we're going to do this differently, this is the new way we're going to have operations at our organization, and people start wringing their hands, that's change, because it's immediate and it's uncomfortable. If you tell someone you're going to do something different, and they go, that's what I'm talking about, I think that'll work. Let me tell you, they've been doing this for a long time. This isn't a change for them. It is exactly what they've always wanted. So what we're talking about is true change, changing and growing an organization by physically moving the way it's heading. So let's talk about change. Let's talk about how people effectively try to manipulate it. And let's do that by changing something. Let's change the commode. Hey, come on, that's something we all use. We use it daily. Let's change it. Now, if I were to say to you, watching this video, what would you change about the commode? I, of course, can't hear what you're thinking, but let me see if I can figure something out. Some of you, we won't say who, but some of you will say, oh, if that lid, if I could just get that lid to stay down. You know, my boys and my husband always leaves the lid up. Well, I can understand that. I'm a man in a family of all ladies, and I understand that because too many millions of times I've heard my wife and my daughter say, Dad, you left the lid up. So here's what I did to solve that problem. I went downstairs. My bathroom is now downstairs. That's where I take my shower. It's where I take my, you understand. It's where I shave. It's where I do everything. It's my bathroom. Now, being the man of this house, I find that mostly my stuff gets broken and it doesn't get fixed because I'm too busy fixing everybody else's stuff. So about 6 months ago, the lid on my commode, the little hingy thing broke, and it's no big deal. I just leaned over against a wall when I need to use it. I put it on there. It's very serviceable. It works for me. I kept thinking, well, I'll go to Lowe's and I'll get some more of those little things and I'll fix it, but I haven't done that. The light up above my bathroom, it went out. And it's one of those where you have to use a screwdriver and you have to take the whole mechanism down, and it's just too much trouble. And just to be honest with you, I just leave the door open. It's serviceable. It works for me. Now, we're having a Christmas party at my house. When we have a Christmas party, we usually have several couples over, and it was a pretty good-sized party, 13 couples there. We got through having that gift exchange where you either take the gift or you swap gifts, as White Elephant or something I think it's called. Anyway, we got through with that little party thing, and everybody, of course, wanted to go to the bathroom. And I was over doing stuff in the kitchen because I love to cook, and I heard my wife having a conversation with one of her friends, and it went like this. Hey, you wouldn't happen to have another bathroom, would you? And Deb goes, well, I don't, is all of them busy? She goes, well, I really need to go. And Deb goes, well, I don't think anybody's downstairs. I mean, that's Dale's bathroom. And she goes, well, it's okay if it's dirty. No, Dale's very clean. Look, just go. Now, I'm up in the kitchen, which is directly over this bathroom, and I hear through the kitchen floor the door shut to this bathroom. Now, I know there's no light in that bathroom. Matter of fact, I know for sure there's no light in that bathroom, and there's no window in that bathroom either. It's totally dark in there, and I knew that probably when she shut the door, she tried to flip on the light and it didn't work, and she probably thought something like this, well, how hard can this be? It's a bathroom. I saw the commode when I came in, and she positioned herself, and I heard this big scream up in the kitchen because she went through it as slick as a nickel because she didn't know the lid. So the lid, I understand the lid is a big issue with some people. So what else could we change about the bathroom? Let's see. How about the height? I always hear that. Some people say they'd like it higher. I would like it lower. I like reaching the floor when I'm sitting on the commode. So let's say that we'll just put like a barber shop thing on it. We'll pump it up, we'll pump it down, we'll lock it in at our height. That'd be good. I've heard this one. Let's make the lid warm. Oh, great idea. I like that idea. It's one of my favorite. I would add to you this. Let's make it glow in the dark. I'd love to be able to go in there at night without having to turn the light on so I could see it. I've heard recliner. I've heard every possible thing that you can think of that would change the commode. But every time I think of this question and I get answers to it, here's the answers I get. Things that make it better. That's not change. That's improvement. What we have to understand is change is the ability to take an organization in a different direction. And as manager and leader, your job is to take the organization in the best path that will yield the best result. That's why I hammer you and will continue to hammer you during this class on why it is important to be an entrepreneur. Why it is important to constantly focus in on what is it that will make my organization better, faster, leaner, meaner. Change is always uncomfortable and it's always immediate. But what we've done is just try to make it comfortable. That's not change. Now, to show you how this thing we've been talking about, the commode, has truly been changed. 3 years ago, a company in Japan designed a commode that when you sit on it, it takes your respiration and heart rate. That's kind of cool, Dale. Yeah. It also remembers who you are. See, your respiration and heart rate are as individual to you as your fingerprint. So in other words, when you go back in there to use it again, it knows who you are. Does that make you feel a little uncomfortable? The fact that every time you go to the bathroom, somebody knows it? Would this make you feel even more uncomfortable that when you make your deposit, that it checks you for diabetes, drug use, and about 17 other diseases? And if you are on the brink of some major illness, well, wouldn't there be a way we could find another division for you to be in? That's change. Change is uncomfortable. Change is immediate. Change makes us think differently. Change. Now, what makes us sleepy to change? What makes us sleepy to change is the fact that change doesn't happen. Because, see, when you go through change, it's a process. It's almost like grief. First of all, when you go through a change, you are resistant to change. And then the next process is that there's unbelief. We're not really doing this, are we? And then there's this resistance. But if you can make it through those first 3 steps of change, everything else becomes very easy. Because, remember, change is immediate and change is uncomfortable. Now, no doubt a lot of you fly from time to time. I fly a lot. I have a favorite air I guess you'd say carrier, service. I like Southwest. It's my favorite airline. I love Southwest. Now, you're probably saying, well, Southwest's okay, but Dale, there's no first class on Southwest. Well, I don't particularly care for first class. They usually put me in first class, but my feet dangle. And, I like to have my feet on the ground. So Southwest works for me. But if you have flown Southwest in the past, and if I asked this question, would you fly Southwest again? The answer would probably be, sure. But why? Well, Dale, bags are free. Yeah, it's good. Some of you might say, it's cheaper. No, it's a better value. Cheap means they put the wings on with duct tape. That's cheap. It's a better value. The great service, Dale. Really? Service? That's what you think? Well, let me ask you, where'd you get your ticket? Got it online, right? Who'd you talk to? Nobody. Where'd you get your boarding pass? Got it online, Dale. Talk to anybody? No. Okay. And you probably didn't check any bags, so you went straight to the gate. Did you talk to anybody? No. Okay. And you got ready to get on the plane. Remember the guy that took your ticket? Thank you. See, that's service. That's great service. No, I'll tell you what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the flight attendants. I love the flight attendants on Southwest. They are by far the best flight attendants in the industry. They are so funny. I like goofy. So I love Southwest. I know almost every flight attendant on Southwest that flies out of Nashville, Tennessee. And the other day I was getting on a plane, and little Connie, little flight attendant on Southwest, saw me, and she runs up, she hugs me. Dr. Dale, give me a hug. And she's hugging me, and she said, will you do me a favor? And I said, sure, I'd love to do you a favor. She said, would you pass out the peanuts? Now, try to remember, I bought a ticket on this plane. But I said, yeah, love to hand out peanuts. Now, I don't do peanuts like most people do. I don't walk down the aisle and very timidly ask you if you'd like a bag of peanuts. I tend to stand in front of the plane and throw peanuts at you, which to me is a much cooler way of getting peanuts, and you get to have a little fun too. But obviously there was a man about, 7 aisles back that had never flown Southwest, and he looked at me and said this, you got anything warm? And I said, well, sure, just, let me warm up my arm. What do you think he did? He, of course, started laughing. Southwest has become tremendously effective and has become tremendously entrepreneurial and has done very well because of its leadership and management style. Its leadership and management style has been more user-friendly and more hands-on. You can read tons and tons and tons of case studies on Southwest. Southwest has effectively turned the airport industry on its head and showed people how to be profitable with airplanes again. But my favorite story on change and on Southwest happened about 3 years ago when I got on a Southwest flight. Now, this is funny enough. The flight attendant's name was Chip and Dale. Chip and Dale. And when Chip saw me get on the plane, he said, Dale, give me a hug. And I'm giving Chip a big hug. And he says, man, you got to do me a favor. And I'm going, you want me to do the peanuts, right? And he goes, no, I want you to do the safety briefing. Now, you have to know that I have secretively always wanted to do the safety briefing. I do lots of work for Southwest Airline, and I have done this before. And Chip looked at me and he said, Dr. Henry, my supervisor saw you do this at a conference several years ago. You got to do the safety briefing. I said, no problem. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to a comedy club or not, but that's the way Chip introduced me. He said, today with us we have one of our favorite flyers, Dr. Henry. Give it up for. And then people, ooh, ooh, ooh. I mean, they were having a blast on this plane. Now, where is the safety briefing always done? Right, it's done at the front of the plane, not mine. When he introduced me, I ran to the back of the plane. When I got to the back of the plane, I said, hey, everybody turn around and look this way. And you could see people turning, looking on both. I said, when you're looking this way, I don't have to tell you where your exits are. And besides that, if we genuinely do crash the plane, I wouldn't worry about exits. I'd just jump out a gaping hole. There'll be several of them all over the plane, and you won't have to worry about doors. So here's the way the safety briefing goes. How many of you have driven a vehicle made before 1962? Yeah, all of us drive newer cars. Well, see, then you should know how to buckle a seatbelt. Why are we still telling people on airplanes to buckle a seatbelt? But you know what? If you don't know how to buckle a seatbelt, just leave yours unbuckled, because we've been trying to work you out of the gene pool for some time now. Next, of course, is the part where we tell you about the flotation devices. See, in case of a water landing, they always say landing. They don't mean landing, they mean crash, because you don't land on water, because this plane does not have pontoons. So it's called a water crash. Now, it's funny to me that we've been talking about water crashes, because 90% of the time when Southwest flies, the biggest body of water they fly over is the Mississippi River. And hitting the Mississippi River in a jet is phenomenal odds. But let's say we have a water crash. Your seat cushion turns into, of course, a flotation device. Now, you knew it was a flotation device the second you sat on it, because had it been an actual cushion, it would have been comfortable. But we have the water crash. You reach, you pull the seat cushion up, you hold it close to your chest, you wrap your arms through it, interlace your wrists, and jump into the water. Now, nobody has thought this through. Because, see, those of you listening to this lecture who have a dog, for example, have you ever smelled a wet dog? It's not pleasant. But yet, you're going to take this cushion, you're going to jump into the water, and then you're going to rub it all over your body. A cushion that has had 10,000 rear ends on it. And it's going to be like a tea bag. All that aroma is going to be released. And you're rubbing, they're just going to come along and push you under. Nobody's going to save a stinky person. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave the seat cushions on the plane. We're all going to jump on top of the plane because 200 seat cushions should make this plane float. Now, next thing. In case of a depressurization happens when you're flying at 30,000 feet and you lose pressurization, which means that you have no oxygen to breathe. So little Mazola butter tubs will drop down from the ceiling, and you take a Mazola butter tub, hold it to your face, and how are you supposed to breathe? Normally. No, you're not going to breathe normally. You're going to be sucking oxygen for all you're worth. And mothers, this is a perfect opportunity. If you have 2 of your children with you, it's help the one you like the most first. Now, the last part of the safety briefing, which I find is the most hilarious part. In case of an electrical outage, you drive a car probably. What happens if your car has an electrical outage? Well, your car stops. It dies. Okay, good. Remember that. In case of an electrical outage, lights will come on up and down so we can all look at each other's terrorized face as we fall to the face of the planet. See, you'll see me running up between the seats, banging on the cockpit with both fists, saying, "Take the power from the lights, start the motors again." Now, how many people do you think listen to my safety briefing? And the answer is all. See, it's different. It's unique. You come to work every day. And some of us probably don't even remember coming to work. You might have driven to work this morning, and you might have said to yourself, "I don't remember driving here." See, I want to change the way you look at work. I want to change the way you look at your job. I want to turn you from an employee to someone who thinks about how they can be better capitalists. Wow, that's a word that some people think is a dirty word. A capitalist. A person who believes in making money. We live in the only country, on the only planet that I know of that has people on it. And the last time I checked, there is not a law that says you can only make a certain amount of money. But you do have a certain amount of time. So what I'm saying is be effective. Biggest bang for your buck. That's what your employer wants. That's what you want. And if you start thinking like this, I don't work for this business in this office. This is my business. So if this were my business, how could I make this business more profitable? See, that's entrepreneurial thinking. And if you can do that, let me tell you that you won't be there very long. As a matter of fact, they'll keep bumping you up. And the next thing you'll know, you'll be going from an employee to a CEO. Because those kinds of people, the people who think in excellence and who think in profitability, instead of what can my boss give me, to what can I do for the company in which employs me, gives me a job. Some of you might have noticed that the economy is not great. Personal story. Nothing to do with this, but I just want to show you how human nature works. I'm on an airplane flying from California. I did not mean to eavesdrop, but there was a couple of ladies in front of me talking, and the conversation went like this. My son lost his job, and he hasn't been able to find work now for almost 6 months. The lady who was sitting in the seat next to her, of course, said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I wish you could find work." And the conversation slowly moved away from that into another area, and the plane was getting ready to land. And as the ladies got up, I heard the one lady say to the other, "I meant to tell you, I forgot, but my son just found a job." And you know what? It was a miracle, because he found this job a week before his unemployment ran out. No. See, we will do the least we can do. As a matter of fact, I get used to hearing that so often. "Oh, thank you. Oh, no, it's the least we can do." No, the least you can do is lay on the ground naked and breathe. We need to move toward excellence. We need to move toward what we were designed to do. We were designed to make things better, not to let them lose value. So in the position that you're in right now, I want you to become more of a thinker than a follower. Now, you must be a good follower to be a good leader, but I want you to become a better thinker. I want you to start changing the way you see the job and changing the way you see management. This week, I think I chose a rather interesting discussion question for you. So as you think about this discussion question, how can you effectively change what happens where you work? How can you redesign it? How can you make it better? How can people start to see you as being set apart from them? Some of the best managers I ever met in my entire life did not have a management title. But because they were such great managers, they became managers. One of my favorite stories to tell is another Chip story. I used to be dean of Tusculum College in Greenville, Tennessee. I had a great employee whose name was Chip Bailey. Chip Bailey was absolutely a dynamic person, a leader in every way, but was the subordinate in this group. Chip came to me one day and he said, "Dr. Henry, I believe that there's a great market out here and I would like to have permission to pursue it." I said, "Chip, I want you to do that." Chip turned out to be the best employee I think I have ever had. So much so that in the 2 years I was there, he received every award that I gave. Employee of the Year, Employee of the Month. He had accolades. You could go in his office, and I didn't even remember what color the walls were. He had so many things hanging on the wall. But the thing that I did, that I found out later, that changed Chip forever, was kind of a stupid thing. Chip had just completed this huge project and had taken it from failure to success. And I'm sitting in my office on a Thursday afternoon, and I thought, what can I do for this guy? How can I motivate him? I thought, well, I could, another award, but he's got tons of awards, and awards do motivate him, but I'd like to go above and beyond. So what I did was I got up and I walked over to the personnel department. I got Chip's personnel file. I brought it back to my desk. It was huge. Letters and accolades. And this guy was just stellar. But remember, he was not a leader. He was not a manager. He was a low man on the totem pole. And I sat down and I hand wrote Chip Bailey's wife a letter. Not him, his wife. And I used the information in his personnel file to talk about what a great father he was and how lucky she was to have Chip as a husband and what a natural leader. And I described to her what I saw as I went through this personnel file. Put it in an envelope, put it on Betty's desk, my secretary. And I thought, wait a minute, why stop there? I sat down and did a duplicate copy with different information to Chip's mom and dad. I had their address, and I sent it to them. I put a stamp on it, put it on my secretary's desk. That was on Thursday. Had meetings all day Friday. Saturday, Sunday, of course, we went home. Monday, I came back to work. I was usually always the first one to get to the office. I made coffee, which was always awful, but nobody complained because nobody else wanted to make it. So I got there about 7:30, and there was a light on in my office, which I couldn't remember leaving it on. And I walked in, and Chip Bailey was sitting in my office. I walked in, he shut the door. He never shut the door. He said, I got to ask you, how was your weekend? I said, I had a stellar weekend. Chip, thanks for asking. He said, I had kind of a rough weekend. I said, really? He said, yeah. We had a Cub Scout jamboree Saturday morning. I took my kids over to it. I came back home. My wife was sitting at the kitchen table reading a letter, crying. She made me and the boys sit down. She read the letter to us. We cried too. Pretty much started my afternoon off with crying. And see, I found out you wrote that letter. Went up to my mom and dad's after lunch to hang around with them. They were sitting at their table. They were crying. Found out you wrote that letter too. They read it to us. We cried. Basically spent the whole day Saturday crying. That's the most touching thing anybody's ever done for me, Dr. Henry. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Chip is now the dean of another college. I inspired him to go back and get his degree, get his doctorate. I talk to him all the time. What a talented leader. See, Chip Bailey became a leader way before his title said leader. But if he did not lay that foundation, if he did not think about how to make me look good, not him, me, he would have never taken over any of those responsibilities. Management is about change. Management is about being a take charge leader. Remember that as you go through this week. Remember that as you go through your assignments this week. And I will see you in Unit 5. Lead. See you.